Well, this last election, there was a massive turnout. How do we keep this trend going?
Well, yeah, and it was wonderful, and I'm really happy that so many people came out to vote, and I think that a lot of it had to do with either how strongly someone felt either, in favor of the president or against the president, and wanting to make change at the local level and the congressional level to address that, right? So I think moving forward, what's really important, if people had a good voting experience this time, and I think a lot of people really did, and that's always my goal, is to make sure voting is easy and is accessible and people have a good voting experience so that they'll come back and do it again. So if they had a good experience this time, the goal is to keep them engaged and keep them voting in elections in the future. So my job, I feel, is to keep working to educate voters and to continue to expand access to the ballot box. And if we can do that, then hopefully we can continue to see this kind of great participation in our democracy.
That's great. I like that. Well, on election day, I was getting a lot of text messages from like family members who were like, who should I vote for? What do I do? And a lot of there's so much on the ballot that a lot of people don't fully understand who they're all voting for. So how can one best educate themselves on the candidates before voting?
That's a question I get a lot, and it's so interesting that in this day and age, folks kind of struggle with trying to get that information. Obviously, most candidates nowadays, they either have a website or a Facebook page, but even sort of knowing what are the offices on my ballot and what do they do is important. So first and foremost, a voter can go to our webpage. It's called nmvote.org, and any voter right before an election can put in their registered name and date of birth, and they can actually get a sample ballot. So the first thing I would recommend voters do is get that sample ballot so you know what is going to be on my ballot when I go and vote, which offices am I voting for, and what are the names of the candidates. And from there, a voter can either go do their own research online, or another great resource that I recommend is called the League of Women Voters Guide. League of Women Voters was founded to get women the right to vote back over almost 100 years ago. And now what they do is they just try to educate everybody about, here are the questions on your ballot, here are the candidates, here are their positions on the issues.
Are they biased in?
No, they're totally nonpartisan, and that's why I recommend them, because they don't take a position on any of the candidates or any of the questions that are on the ballot. They merely say, here they are, this is what they're about. They ask all the candidates the same questions and limit them to how many words they can use, and so you get really unbiased, clear information. And they have a print version and an online version. So just Google League of Women Voters of New Mexico, and that's a great way to get that information.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So there was so many people who turned out, so much passion, so much energy. How do we get people that had that for election day to continue that with the community, with getting in, just election? It doesn't end at election day. It goes on. So what would be your kind of recommendation?
That's totally right. Well, I think just having conversations like this are really important, and I think we need to all continue to have these conversations. Around election time, we always talk about, talk to your friends and family and make sure your friends are registered to vote, or make sure they get out to vote. I view voting as sort of our basic, most if you don't do anything else as a citizen of this country, you should vote, right? That's our civic duty. But there's so many other forms of civic participation, whether it be, writing your congressman or your legislator about an issue that you care about, or showing up to a legislative meeting. In Santa Fe, we have one of the only capitals in the country where any citizen of the state can just walk in at any time. You don't have to be on a list. You don't have to go through a metal detector. You can go in, you can literally approach your legislator in the hallway, talk to them about an issue you care about, sit in a committee hearing and listen to what's being discussed by the legislators about different policies.